Hi, everyone. Happy afternoon. This afternoon, I invited one of my favorite people, Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang, to come and share with you a little bit more about mindfulness. She and I like to work together and like to chat together. So this is fun for us and a chance to hang out together in the afternoon. But what I asked if she would come and talk about is, what is mindfulness-based stress reduction? So she teaches this course, and I will say that I took the course over the summer and learned a lot. And I think so many of us think about mindfulness, and there's lots of different ways to be mindful. And that's actually what I talk about a lot, is there's so many different ways. But this tool is a very specific tool and a very specific course that has a lot of evidence to it about how it can help with anxiety, depression, and lots of other stuff. And I'll let her explain the details on that. But what I really wanted to do was share what it is with you. So you have an idea of what it is, an idea of maybe how it can help you, and learn from her amazingness about opportunities to improve yourselves. So with that, I would love to just ask you, why should someone take mindfulness-based stress reduction? What can it do for you?
First of all, thank you so much, Jessie, for asking me to come on today. Let's start off with the beginning definition of mindfulness, and then I can go more into specifics about the course.
Perfect.
So mindfulness is paying attention on purpose to the present moment without any judgment. And it can be applied to doing anything or nothing at all, anytime, anywhere, by anyone. And so mindfulness-based stress reduction is a classically 8-week course. So it's once a week for 2.5 hours a week, except for the day of mindfulness, which is basically you're mostly in silence that entire day, practicing mindfulness together with your class. So classically, it's 8 weeks with a day of mindfulness. And the course consists of a couple of different elements. One is the actual experiential practice of formal mindfulness exercises, which includes body scan meditation, walking meditation, sitting awareness of breath meditation, and also walking meditation with mindful movement. So there's also others, but those are kind of the classical formal practices that you learn in the class and that you experience in the class, led by trained facilitators or teachers. So why should someone take mindfulness? And before I jump in there, the other components of the class also include group support. So a lot of the learning of the material comes actually directly from the sharing of experience from the participants. And I specifically don't record these sessions because a lot of vulnerability might come up, and I and other teachers want to really foster an environment of safety and a safe space and container to hold everything that comes up, especially now in such heightened stress times around the world. So group support, formal mindfulness practices, and then there's also a component of curiosity about your own direct experience, curiosity about home practice, curiosity about noticing perhaps patterns of behavior that might come up and become more apparent to you as you practice mindfulness.
Can I just interject there? Because as someone who is a yoga teacher and who did mindfulness and who took this course, I noticed a lot of patterns that popped up. And I think one of the most interesting things that you brought up for me was on some days during the class, we would be doing the mindfulness and I would have tremendous resistance and difficulty, right? And some days it's very hard to be mindful, and some days it's very hard to be still, even when you consider yourself someone who, practices a lot of mindfulness. And you really called me out on that and just asked me to, acknowledge that it was difficult, and that oftentimes in that willingness to sort of allow the difficulty is where the peace and the mindfulness actually comes. And so I think that that space to process and that space to be vulnerable and to share. And I felt comfortable sharing after the exercise that like, I just was fidgeting the whole time and couldn't sit still. And it didn't matter where I couldn't find the right spot. And so it really is a beautiful opportunity to sort of, you don't have to be an expert meditator, and you can be someone who has a lot of experience and struggle with it. And there's still value in that group processing and space to have the conversation and learn from each other.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that experience, Jessie. So for people who've already taken the course, it's not a contradiction. In fact, it's probably recommended to repeat the course. I've, as part of my teacher training, have taken the course 3 times, and each time with a different set of instructors or instructor, the experience was different because I was in different places and different cycles of my life. And so with each class, there were new lessons that I learned. And so I think that retaking mindfulness-based stress reduction is a tremendously valuable experience, because as with any practice in life, similar to exercise or healthy eating, we are going to have periods of time where we are a bit more mindful or in tune or aware. And then other days, it's just kind of this mindlessness that sets in because of stress or because someone didn't sleep well or for a myriad of reasons.
I wonder, actually, your comments brought up this question of like, we are in kind of a unique moment in time. I like to be mindful of it being a moment in time and not a difficult moment or a challenging moment. We're in a unique moment in time. I think we can all agree with that. And why might, in this time of COVID, and I'm in Northern California, so wildfires and global warming and all kinds of political stuff, I'll just call it that. Why might this be the perfect time to up-level your mindfulness or start a mindfulness practice if you don't have one?
I think that you can face challenging, unique situations a myriad of ways, and this might serve as a perfect opportunity for you to go within and for you to do some internal work that perhaps you might have more time now because so many places and locations are just shut down. So can you honor the time that you might have doing something that's intentionally a discovery journey for you, as opposed to mindlessly surfing the internet or social media or watching TV? Like, this is an opportunity.
It's interesting. What you're saying reminds me of this concept in coaching. We talk about buffering and all of the things that we do to feel better when we're faced with a lot of stress. And so many of us do the mindful TV watching. For me, it used to be a lot of eating chocolate. There's a lot of Facebook scrolling or whatever your social media choice is. And it can be lots of different things. Some people even buffer with good things like over exercising or overworking. And so mindfulness can be a tool to help you find that space and that relief, perhaps in a different way. I don't know that you can buffer with mindfulness. That's an interesting question. As I say this, could you? Perhaps those people who meditate all day, every day. But to me, it's almost an anti-buffer, because a buffer is something you do without consciousness and without intention. And the mindfulness is something that you do with intention. And this actually brings up one other thing I just wanted to say. I had a client today who brought up how she was just able to be so much more mindful. And it reminded in all of her actions. And it wasn't sort of a specific, I'm sitting down meditating, but I'm thinking and noticing and catching myself much sooner. And her thought was, I wonder why that's happening. And first of all, we've been working together for a while, so I think it's happening because she's been practicing. But I actually said to her something that you have said to me, and I know that you say it in the course as well, which is about like flexing your mindful muscles. And so to me, what I learned in MBSR was really it's the practice, and it's flexing those muscles frequently for 8 weeks. So it becomes a habit. It becomes your natural state of being. And so that then when you may be thrown back into other really difficult situations, because I like to say, who knows what's coming next in 2021, or for, we just, this year, if anything has taught us, we need as many tools in our toolbox. And so this is sort of a tool you can carry with you.
I dare say that mindfulness is the antidote to buffering.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I think that that's an absolutely true statement, because practicing too much mindfulness will actually most likely prevent you from buffering.
I don't think you can be mindful and buffer at the same time.
Right. So I think
about it. I've never brought the two into the same conversation in that way. So as my brain was sort of processing it, and I would agree that it is the antidote. And it's the antidote I'm going to throw out to stress also.
So you can have and intentionally choose to develop a healthier relationship with stress, for sure. Our brains are hardwired for negativity because it's an evolutionarily advantageous trait for humans to have. But in the 21st century, that negative attention bias is not serving us. So what happens is when we, I think it was Rick Hansen that said this, that negativity sticks like Velcro, but positivity slides off like Teflon.
Yes.
And so are we able to practice our mindfulness muscles similar to exercise and working out the rest of our muscles in our body, but with mindfulness, working the mindfulness muscles in our brain so that we can actually learn to hold both negative and positive events just as they are on our palm, rather than grasping and clinging and wanting to hold on to positive events and dropping or pushing away negative events. I think mindfulness allows us to have an openness, the sense of equanimity or more neutrality towards both positive and negative events. And in that particular moment, accept it just as it is so that you can notice all of this, and then you get to choose your response, as opposed to our habitual state, which is we shove away the bad, we cling on to the good, and then we go into our own automatic stress reactivity patterns. So you mentioned patterns before. I think coronavirus pandemic is a very unique time to notice potentially maladaptive coping behaviors like the buffering. So the first question that you asked about why someone should take it, I think the simple answer is do it for yourself. It's do it for yourself, mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
And then when you do it, you might notice that your loved ones that you live with, or even your colleagues that you practice medicine with, your patients might start noticing small changes that you might not perceive. I mean, you and I have both seen remarkable transformations in people who have undergone and committed to this work. And the betterment of being able to choose one's response to stress is super empowering, and our physiology loves it.
And our families love it. I'm going
yes, our colleagues love it.
And colleagues
love it.
And people you interact with. And I think, in coaching, we talk about be the change you want to be. And mindfulness allows you to be that change. And in my mind, it creates the space to be that change, just to figure out who you want to be. And just that like general relief and release in your center, it creates the space for that. I have one final question I want to ask you, which is, so I know you're teaching the mindfulness-based stress reduction. The next course starts this weekend. And your course you're teaching it with Dr. Sarah Dill. who's also a physician. But the course is unique, not unique, but different in that it's for both people who work in healthcare and people who don't work in healthcare. It's open to everyone. And I wondered if you just want to say a few words about why you make that choice and what the benefit of a mixed group can be.
I am a bit of a purist, and I have to be mindful to not be super rigid and stringent about the way I do things. But the first reason comes up is that that was the initial intention when it was conceived by Jon Kabat-Zinn back in 1979. It was a mixed population of people from all walks of life. And so this shared humanity becomes literally demonstrated in the mindfulness-based stress reduction group when it is a mixed group. We're in a unique time right now where there is this shared humanity of, especially in the United States, of election-related stress, racial tension-related stress, along with the overarching like pandemic-related stress, and then all of the different issues and problems and challenges that come with those really big three. And regardless of whether or not you're in healthcare or if you're part of the general public and not in healthcare, you experience some version of those three big stressors right now. So why not be in community? Yeah. Why not form connections that you otherwise wouldn't have formed before? That we know human connection is super healing as well. So it's very intentional that Dr. Dill and I decided to continue with a mixed group for this upcoming cycle.
And I have to say, I loved the mixed group. And I think, you know, as a yoga teacher, yoga class is a mixed group. It's open to one and all. And it's very much finding community. And in this time where we're all so isolated and everyone's having their different experiences, that the beauty of just bringing everyone together and finding connection. And what you said I loved was this concept of shared humanity. And if we could all just reconnect a bit more these days to our shared humanity, I think the world would be a better place. So I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing this, because I think that so many of us could benefit from starting a mindfulness practice, up-leveling a mindfulness practice. And I think, as most people know, I am someone who is not stringent by the rules and believes in like bring in mindfulness. However, wherever you can, if you do it through yoga, if you do it through, strict meditation, I do think that there's tremendous value in doing something where you really learn specific skills about mindfulness, and that this course is just a really fantastic opportunity. And so I wanted to make sure that people kind of understand what it is. You know, a lot of people have heard of Jon Kabat-Zinn, they've seen his books, but this is sort of an opportunity for you to really explore it in depth and really change your life, is what I'll say. I think we see so many people who transform themselves through this, and the mindfulness can be the first step, right? Doing this mindfulness-based stress reduction is what allows you to really develop the curiosity and then begin to see what you want, see the possibilities, and then make them happen. So it's been so much fun chatting with you again. And I hope that we can chat again soon, more on mindfulness, more on coaching, more on perhaps just bringing a little more joy and fun into our lives in the world today. So thank you so much for coming, and have a beautiful evening and afternoon wherever any of you may be. Thanks so much for listening.
Well.